evening, my name is Arlene Herson. The name of the show is Getting to Know You, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Tonight we're going to get to know a man of achievement, whether it has been gathering gold records as a recording artist, starring in over 30 movies, traveling all over the world performing on concert stages and in nightclubs, or on the television screen as an entertainer or dramatic actor. It is no doubt he achieves excellence. His proudest achievement, however, might be that in addition to everything else we mentioned, he is also the father of 8 children. He is Frankie Avalon, and let's get to know him right after these messages, so please stay right there. We're back. We're with my guest Frankie Avalon, and we're at the Atlantis Hotel in Atlantic City in Frankie Avalon's dressing room. Thank you, by the way, for having us here.
Oh, thank you for being here, and this is my dressing room for the weekend.
Right, well, but it's your dressing room.
Because when you leave, as you're leaving the place, you know, the dressing room door, they take your name off, and how soon they forget.
Oh, you know, that's an interesting point when you say how soon they forget. Okay, not...
In a weekend.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, but then you're on to someplace else.
That's true, then they remember.
Okay, but you've been in show business. You have not been forgotten. Actually, you've been in show business for a long, long time. I mean, it certainly is well over 25 years. You started when you were 18. I mean, you're only about 22 now, so we're starting.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were a teenage idol, movie star, nightclub performer. Has it all been a good experience?
I think it's been great. I mean, I wouldn't change it for the world. It's been a great career. A great life. You mentioned motion pictures, television, nightclubs, and a great home life. I mean, a wonderful wife with 8 healthy children. I've got no complaints at all.
You know, but it's so different now from when you started. I mean, you really, you hit it big very, very early, which was very fortunate. But back to the early days, just for a little bit, because it's such a contrast. You were brought up in a very tough section of Philadelphia. Now, I heard you were a pretty tough kid, because is it true that your first career choice was not a singer, but to be a boxer, professional boxer?
Yeah, but don't get me wrong. I'm really not a fighter. I'm too small, too little. Now, if I could have been a heavyweight, different story. But I'm just a little guy. No, I liked boxing as a kid growing up. And coming from the neighborhood, I found my little way with the Police Athletic League. And I used to box little amateur bouts. And I really enjoyed it. Got me into training and all that stuff, and felt like I could handle myself. But that changed pretty quick. The
movies changed it, I understand. Yeah. Going to the movies, I mean, that's been a part of your life, changed the whole direction of your life.
Well, I guess like all kids, you know, who, especially from the area that I come from, Saturday afternoon was, you know, Mom gave you your lunch in a little brown paper bag. You went and stayed all day. And you watched the same picture over and over again and kind of ran around the theater. Got yourself into trouble now and then. But this one particular time I went to see a picture called, and it really wasn't a kid picture, it was called Young Man with a Horn. And it was the story of a trumpet player, of a little boy who was really my age. And I think there was a certain amount of identification at that point. And I fell in love with the film and the music. And the trumpet really got to me, and it got to my heart. And I was just ecstatic about it. And I came home and told my father, who was a amateur musician, that I wanted to play trumpet. And he immediately went out and borrowed some money and went to a pawn shop, and he bought me my first horn. Yeah,
you know, that's true, because when you mentioned that your father was an amateur I can't get the word out. A musician, thank you very much. But his work was really as a cab driver, or as a machine operator, or a butcher.
Right.
So it wasn't that easy for him to get the money.
No, in those days, of course, you know, everybody was out there struggling and trying to make ends meet, as they say. And he did. We always had good food, great food on the table, and a lot of warmth and affection within our family, and a lot of good times, a lot of happy times, and music was a part of it.
Terrific. Well, when you were, from the time you were 8 years old, you were entering talent contests, winning talent contests. Now, you know, for anybody to get up before an audience is really, you know, for a lot of people it's very difficult. Where did you get your self-confidence from?
It wasn't a matter of self-confidence, it was a matter of a scooter.
What do you mean?
I mean, when they said, and anybody who wins this contest will receive a scooter. But I don't mean the kind we used to make. We used to make them out of an orange crate box, you know, with old skates and things. But this was a scooter, you know, red one. And that gave me a lot of incentive and a lot of confidence. I'll do it. And of course I did. And I guess because of that spunk, it worked out and I won the scooter. That was the first contest I won.
Ah, okay, and a lot more since then. But was there ever a time that you were uncomfortable on the stage?
Well, I guess it happens probably every performance.
You're kidding.
Yeah. I mean, before you go out, it's a matter of anticipating going out there. Because there's one thing that you must realize being a performer, and I'm sure that you've interviewed quite a few, you're never really too sure about your audience. You know, I mean, you know what you do because that's your profession. And before you walk out there, you're saying to yourself, I wonder what frame of mind they're in tonight. How they're going to react. Are they going to accept what I'm about to do for them, you know? Because you are in the people business. So you never, it's never a shoo-in, you know? And when it becomes that is really when you die, I mean, when the performance doesn't work. So it's always good to have that little bit of an edge. And once you're out there, I don't mean you're uncomfortable all the time, once you put your feet on the stage and you kind of get settled in there for about the first 3 minutes, 5 minutes, then you're fine.
You know, it's interesting when you say the reaction to the audience because in your career is really, you've seen many, many different kinds of audiences. When you started, for instance, as a teenage idol in the 60s, at 18 you were already a great big star. Now, girls screamed when you performed. They swooned in the aisles. I mean, we don't even use the expression swoon in the aisles anymore. They would wait for hours at a stage door to touch you or to see you. Now, there was one time I heard in Buffalo, I think it was, that a herd of wild women, is how they were described in the magazine article, kind of trampled you and you fell and you sprained your back. Now, did it really happen that way? And were there times that you were in danger?
Yeah, it really did. One thing about my career, I mean, of course, there's a combination that make for any kind of business career, whatever it may be. It really did happen. Why, I don't know. I mean, I was a kid from a neighborhood that, I mean, I was always kind of accepted in the school as being popular, whatever it may be, and I did have a certain amount of girlfriends and things, but I mean, there wasn't any great adulation where they were screaming and yelling that every girl in the school was looking for Frankie, and I mean, that wasn't the case. And then all of a sudden it started to happen, and I try to analyze it through the years now, and I don't know why or what happened. I think that the reason was there was a certain period of time where a generation was looking for an idol, someone to look up to, someone that they could identify with. And I think Presley started it all, without a doubt. And then Ricky Nelson followed because of his exposure on television and the records. And then a little guy came along, which was me, and there was another. I think that I was, you know, the kind of a person at the time that I wasn't really ever a threat to anybody. And I think I was the guy that, you know, Presley scream, yell, and go crazy and fantasize or whatever. Ricky being that untouchable television. Frankie was the kind of guy, I could date him. You know, so I mean, there was a certain amount of identification, I think, which was the appeal at that time.
Okay, which made you one of the biggest stars, if not the biggest star, doing what you were doing at that time. There were Frankie Avalon sweatshirts, there were buttons, there were sweaters, there were bracelets, there was even, now is this true, authentic locks of your hair.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I couldn't believe it.
What did you do?
Well, I would go into a barber shop in my neighborhood in South Philly, Joe the Barber, and Joe would cut my hair and it would kind of fall, and they would save it. And they had made a situation with the Lloyds of London, being authentic, that it was my hair, and they would take this little locket with a picture and some strands of hair and put it in there, and that was part of the merchandise.
Wow. Okay. You know, all this adulation. I mean, you know, just one more thing about this, then we're going to kind of move on. But I can't, you know, there you were, 18 years old. People, you know, buying locks of your hair, all this, all this attention you were getting, was it ever, it was wonderful, of course, but was it ever difficult for you to handle that so young?
No, not really. I don't know. It wasn't difficult, only because, I just couldn't believe it myself. And I never really took it seriously. I mean, I had fun with it. I guess the most difficult part about it was the fact that it was kind of, I always felt uneasy because I was embarrassed by it. I mean, girls would scream, I want to say, shh. So I was kind of embarrassed by it, more than anything.
Yeah, okay, well, speaking about being embarrassed, but we're thinking about being fun. Your first really big hit was something that really, I think, happened because you weren't joking. Dee Dee Dinah.
Right.
You were holding your nose when you sang that song. Now, you couldn't have been serious in the beginning.
Well, what you've got to realize is that, I had, at that point in my life, I had really become very serious about music. And I was a trumpet player, and a good one. And I studied in Philadelphia with one of the trumpeters from the Philadelphia Orchestra, Seymour Rosenfeld. So I was thinking about a career as being a legitimate trumpet player. Someday maybe make the Philadelphia Orchestra. So I was really involved into music, and then a lot of jazz too. I mean, I used to go and see, sneak in and see people like Dizzy Gillespie and Red Rodney and people that were local jazz players. So when I got into the singing thing, I mean, I didn't take it that seriously to start with, and then all of a sudden it happened, and then I had cut a couple of records or so that didn't really happen. They didn't sell, but there was an audience that was really interested in Frankie Avalon, the person, and the record company said that people like you, and if we find the right song, I think we have a chance to have a hit record. And they came up with another song called Dee Dee Dinah. Went into New York City, and I went into the recording studio, and the music was playing, and it sounded very staccato to me, the background, as they were rehearsing it. And it sounded bam, 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 bam. So I was kind of going around with it, and I started saying, and the producers of the record, which was Pete DeAngelis and Bob Marcucci, said, "What are you doing?" I said, I'm just fooling around. They said, "Let's put a couple down like that. It's a sound. It's a gimmick." In those days, they were looking for gimmicks and sounds. And we made a few straight and made a few with the nose job, and they put out the nose job record. It became a hit, which it's just one of those things.
Okay, well, on the stage here at the Atlantis Casino or wherever, I don't imagine we've ever seen you sing that song, Holding Your Nose.
Yeah, well, you can.
You can?
Sure.
You do?
I do.
Really?
Yeah. I hold my nose and my ears.
Listen, we're going to talk about that during this commercial break. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back. We're speaking with Frankie Avalon, and we'll be right back after these messages, so please stay right there. We're back. We're with my guest, Frankie Avalon. We're at the Atlantis Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. We've been talking about Frankie Avalon, the early days, and I guess, there's so much that's a part of your career, and certainly the things that you're doing now, but there's also another part of Frankie Avalon. Frankie Avalon, the family man. Okay, I mentioned in the introduction, you have 8 children. You married very young. You married about 23, I think you were. You've been married to the same woman for...
Ever.
I won't say yes. I won't say how, but it's a long time.
A lot of years, yeah.
All right, well, tell us about this very special woman that you're married
Well,
to.
she's very special. I mean, I don't know of anybody, these days anyway, that has 8 children. It just doesn't happen too much anymore. And we really did plan it that way. We planned to have 10.
You're kidding.
Yeah. And she did have 10 pregnancies, and she had 2 miscarriages. But we got a great family. She's a wonderful wife, wonderful mother. She's very efficient. She's got it all down. She's a lot of fun. She has a great sense of humor. She's a great friend. She's a great lover. I mean, she's terrific.
Wow, it sounds you've got everything. But you say you plan to have 10 children. Now that's very, very unusual, especially you married very young. You only come from a family where you have 1 sister.
Right.
So not a large family.
And she comes from a family where she has 1 sister.
So why 10 children?
I don't know. We just wanted our own baseball team, won our own, everything, you know. It just worked out. We really did plan it, and it worked out fine.
Okay, they're somewhere between the ages now, I think, of around 12 and 22. Or
11 and 22.
11 and 22. Okay, so that's almost 8 children in 10 years. It must have been chaotic at times. Were you happy to be on the road? When
Yes.
they were younger and there were 8 of them so close to
Yes.
yeah.
I used to call my agent and tell him to book me any place, weddings, bar mitzvahs, any place. No, I mean, I was home a lot, and I was on the road a lot. I mean, half and half, I guess it was. But now that the family is growing, it's almost like having 2 families, because we have a 22-year-old and a 21-year-old and a 19-year-old and an 18-year-old, and then comes the second family, which is like a 15-year-old and a 14 and 12. I don't know.
Okay, well, whatever.
Well, they
but
change
there are a
every
lot,
year,
but they're like, that's not so, but there are a lot. I mean, they're all ages, and there are a
Yeah.
lot of them. Any of them going to follow in Daddy's footsteps and go into show business?
Yeah, I
you
think so. The 2 oldest are boys, and one has just finished his 3rd motion picture.
Wow, doing what? As an actor, or as a?
As an actor.
Okay.
He does a lot of print stuff too, a lot of modeling, he does a lot of teeth commercials and hair, and he makes a pretty good living. And the second one is more involved in the music, and he's a guitarist and a songwriter. And I finally have convinced the 2 boys that I think they should team up and utilize their talents together.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to start that now. The other ones, who's dating and who's working and going to school and all that stuff.
Is it a business that you recommend to them? I mean, can you say to your kids, hey,
Yeah,
this is...
I think they understand my business very much. It's not just most people think it's glamorous. It is. It's fun and it's exciting, and it never is the same. There's always changes, and there's ups and there's downs, and I think they're aware of it, and they know it's tough. But yeah, I would recommend it.
Okay.
Why not?
I want to talk a little bit more about the business. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about your business, because there are a lot of ups and downs.
Okay.
A lot of rewards, but a lot of tough times. We're speaking with Frankie Avalon, and we'll be right back after these messages, so please stay right there. We're back. We're with my guest, Frankie Avalon. We're here at the Atlantis Casino Hotel in Atlantic City. Okay, just to talk a little bit about your business, because you've seen many aspects of it. I mean, there was one time you were the biggest star in the business, the biggest singing star, performing to packed houses all over. Then there was a while of one-nighters, not so packed houses, traveling a lot. How did you handle that difference?
I guess you kind of went along with the territory. You got lucky, got hot, sold a lot of records and so forth, and then all of a sudden things change. A new style of music comes in. Different kinds of pictures start to happen. So you kind of sit back and you see what's going on, and you readjust, and you kind of regroup. Say, what am I going to do? How do I survive this? And I think what I did at that point of my life was really get in and grind my craft, learn what it's all about. So when I did go out there, I just didn't have to rely on a couple of hit songs, 3, 4 hit songs, whatever it was, or a picture. I wanted to entertain. So it really gave me, I'm from thousands of people, you walk out there and you see 40. There's 40 people, and you look and you go back to your dressing room and you say, man, there's only 40 people. What's happened? What's going on? But everybody had to adjust. People were then starting to get married. I was getting married. I was raising a family. They were too. Another generation was coming along. They had their own music. So in essence, what I did was I didn't pout. I didn't get nervous. I didn't get crazy. I just kind of said, well, let me learn about my career, and if it happens, great, and if it doesn't, I've had a great career. and it worked out pretty good.
Yeah, it worked out pretty good because you are very busy and you're still on the road. You can kind of pick or choose, but you're still on the road quite a bit. Now, I kind of wonder how you deal with that because it's lonely being on the road. You have lots of people who are in the audience, I mean more than 40 certainly most of the time, but you know, many times thousands of people in the audience, you go back to the hotel alone. Is that difficult?
Well, first of all, at times it's nice to be alone. It's just like, you know, you've heard the expression, I need a little space or whatever, you know. I mean, I've been around the family. There's 10 of us in the family. And you see, I don't go like I used to before. I don't go for weeks at a time. So when you say, isn't it lonely? I mean, for a couple of nights, it isn't bad at all. It's kind of nice and relaxing. And I think my wife feels the same way, too, you know, just to kind of relax a little bit. So, no, I don't find it to be lonely at all. I have two wonderful guys that travel with me, and we're friends, you know, so that helps.
Because for some people, being on the road has been a real problem. The loneliness that has occurred sometimes has led many performers to drinking and to drugs.
I think that happens with a lot of, I mean, not drinking or drugs or specifically saying, but I think it's tougher for a woman. For a female on the road, it's tough.
Yeah.
A guy, you know, you can put your glasses on and kind of walk around and whatever, and you can do a hell of a lot more than a woman can.
Okay, so for you, actually, it's been ever the temptation, the drinking or the drugs on the road, the kind of things that you've
Hey,
done?
listen, I'm no saint, you know. I mean, I have a good time, but, you know, never overdo anything.
Okay, good. You started so young. You made it so fast at 18, quickly. Now you're in control of your own destiny, but did you ever feel back in those days that, like we have in movies like The Idolmaker, that really you weren't in control, that you knew what you had to do and you had to do it because of the people telling you where you had to be?
The only way people told me where I had to be is whatever is because I had a commitment, and that was my job. I've always been my own person. I mean, I really have. I've always performed the way I want to perform, acted. So I've been my own human being, my own man for a lot of years. I was never wound up and pushed out and did, you know. So I don't agree with that. I mean, The Idolmaker was some picture that they did about supposedly myself and Fabian, and they said it's a combination of different guys like us, but I was never that controlled.
Good. Okay. Glad to hear that. We only have 30 seconds yet. I'm controlled only because of time. Have there been good friends in the business, people who have stayed through the good times and the bad times? Have you made good relationships?
Yeah, I've got friends. Not a lot. I'm pretty private anyway. Listen, when you've got a big family and you know, you don't make that many friends, but I do have some good friends, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you took the time to be on my show, actually
Thank
the
you,
second time. Right,
Yeah.
about 4 or 5 years ago, and I thank you very much. It's
Thank you.
been a delight having you again. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I hope that you have enjoyed getting to know Frankie Avalon. I know that I certainly have, and that you'll join us again next week. Meantime, good night. It's been a pleasure getting to know you.